of that is people stop believing in themselves. Let's say I had a parent that said to me, you are no good, you are never going to amount to anything. And if you hear that day after day after day after day after day, guess what it's doing? It starts to get in. The first time you do it, you can blow it off. But if you're hearing this frequently enough, year after year after year, that starts to go in, and you start to believe it. So every year I reread the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I was just reading what he says about it. And it's so perfect that I just had to bring it along tonight and read it.
Good, that's great.
Because it describes what I'm talking about. So this is what he says about it. We live in a world constantly bombarded by vibrations of energy. Now, this is a man who wrote this in before 1920. He started writing this. So he's talking about energy way back when nobody was talking energy.
Oh, great.
So we live in a world constantly bombarded by vibrations of energy. Though thought impulses are vibrations of energy transmitted by some deeply mysterious and yet uncomprehended way as electrical and chemical currents among the brain cells. And now we know that there's synapses, I think they're called, in the brain, that it kind of connects cells to be talking to each other. So when you're doing a good habit, you're laying down those synapses, so then I remember how to do that. And the more I do it, the stronger that connection becomes. Well, the same thing happens with the negative. So that's what he's talking about here. In the 1920s, they didn't understand that. In today's world, we call it neurological synapses. It is clear that thought impulses like electromagnetic radiation are also out there. Somehow, as some experiment of extrasensory perception, or ESP, seem to indicate. Human experience, like the cosmos itself, teems with thought vibrations or influences, both destructive and constructive. It is characterized at times by vibrations of fear, poverty, disease, failure, misery, and vibrations of prosperity, health, success, and happiness. Just as surely as the atmosphere carries the sound of hundreds of orchestrations of music and hundreds of human voices, all of which maintain their own individuality and means of identification through the medium of radio and television. Like we are a signal that picks this up. So he's saying we have both going out all the time. From this great storehouse of experience, the human mind is constantly attracting vibrations which harmonize with that which dominates the mind. Let me say that again. The human mind is picking up on those vibrations that dominate your own mind. Any thought, idea, plan, or purpose which one holds in one's mind attracts from the thought vibrations of existence a host of its relatives, adding these relatives to its own force and growing until it becomes the dominating, motivating master of the individual of whose mind it is housed. So in other words, if my dominating thoughts are unhappiness, thoughts of unhappiness, and I'm radiating that out into the world without even saying a word, you can walk up to somebody, and if they are really in a bad mood, you can feel it without them saying a word. They look dark, they have a scowl on their face, they look like they're going to bite your head off. You can feel it, and they didn't even say a word to you. If you're putting out unhappiness, what he is saying is you are now attracting back to you other vibrations, thoughts of unhappiness. And it's adding to it. It's making that stronger in your mind. So in other words, what he is saying is you will continue to pull people, situations, you'll pick up on all these thought vibrations that everyone else who's doing unhappiness, if yours is unhappy, it's like a magnet. You're pulling this to you. That cut that I was talking about and that heavy energy that I was describing, that cut, your energy field, that is the magnet. That is literally pulling this in. So then he goes on to say, any idea, plan, or purpose placed in the mind through repetition of thought is how information is easily conveyed.
Boy.
So what he goes on to say is we are what we are because of the vibration of thought which we pick up and register through the stimuli of our daily environment. If you're positive, you are going to pull in more positive. If you are negative or unhappy, you will pull in more of it.
Boy, we just have to be so aware of looking on the bright side.
Absolutely.
Being mindful of
Being
what's
mindful.
up.
What are you thinking? Literally, like, what are you thinking?
A self-check-in.
Do a self-check-in. I do it throughout the day because I sometimes catch myself in going in a negative thought pattern. And wait a minute, I don't want to be thinking that. And I will stop.
Yeah, I've been around that mountain before.
Ooh, I don't like that mountain path. I'm going to take a different road.
Well, we're going to explore some more with you, Mary. It's so informative. I'm speechless throughout this. We're going to go visit with Marshall, a clip. Thank you, Fred.
What's Marshall tonight?
It's Marshall.
Now, it's this evening. I'm glad that you've agreed to continue the discussion. And I just need to be sure that you're doing it because you want the same thing I do and not out of guilt or afraid of my reaction. So I'd like to really tell me how you are feeling about this conversation right now.
I don't really know.
Kind of mixed, not too sure. The one thing I'm feeling is deep gratitude that at least you're willing to do it, because I have such caring for you and tenderness for you, all mixed together with fear and a bunch of feelings, and it's a gift for me that we're having this opportunity to talk. And I'd like to know how you feel when I tell you about all these strong feelings that are going on in me in relationship to this talk right now. Notice I seldom, if ever so far in the dialogue with her, have used more than 40 words before asking for a reaction. And those 40 words were mainly to tell her what's in my heart, and as soon as I did, I elicited a reaction. The more words we use before getting a connection with the other person, the less connection there'll be.
Well, I'm glad you care about me.
And I'm going to say some other things, and it would be a great gift to me if at any time you hear me criticizing or making any demands, that you stop me. Because that will not be my intent. In no way do I want to criticize you. In no way do I want to pressure you to do anything that you don't choose to do. So it would help me if you'd be willing to stop me at any time you hear either of those things. Would you be willing to do that?
Okay.
I'm scared when I see you drinking beer. For many reasons. One, just your physical health. But more than that, I'm scared that you've got some pain inside and you're dealing with it through the beer. And if that's so, I would really like us to find another way of dealing with the pain. And I'd feel relieved now if you'd tell me what you hear me say so I can see if I'm making myself clear.
Well, what I hear you say is that you're afraid that I may be dealing with my pain and confusion by staying out late and drinking beer.
Thank you for hearing that. Yeah, and